Good morning and welcome to Morning Moments. I am so glad you joined us today for another guest. I have a wonderful guest here, uh, uh, Beth Suess, and and I asked her what her title was, is she's a kingdom cultivator, and I have never interviewed a kingdom cultivator before, and I got to know more about what a kingdom cultivator is. She and her husband are co-owners of Kingdom Winds. So glad to have you with us, Beth. Tell us about yourself and what is your role? What do you do?
Well, I want to say thanks for having me, Andy, and it's a blessing to be with you and to get to know you more. Kingdom Cultivator. Well, that came about because I wanted a unique title. I wanted something that would really fit into what God was calling us to do. So we spent some time thinking and praying on that. And really, what it means for us now and where we are with Kingdom Winds is my support of our collective members. So Kingdom Winds has a group of Christian writers and authors and podcasters and ministries that have joined together to be a part of this platform that we've created. And my role is a lot of interaction and working with these collective members. I'm on the front line bringing them into the collective, and I'm often their go-to person as we move forward and connect further and work as they work in Kingdom Winds.
All right, great. It's so nice to have Kingdom Collective. I think of Star Trek and the Borg being the collective, but I am so glad there is a Kingdom Collective now where we could be part of. That's great. It's great to hear. So you actually help distribute and help other ministries with what God's called them to do. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, we're a support for the Christian creative is how we look at it. When God called us to this, it was really a place for God's inspired words and works to be shared. And it was all God's idea. It was a long journey of my husband listening to him and hearing, this whole kind of business plan unfold. But at the end of it, the real point of it is to share what God has given all the people that are a part of us, basically, their mission, their words, their podcasts, everything that God has put on their heart to build the kingdom. We want to help them get that out. So that's really what our platform is about.
I mentioned this before. Some of my other guests. I had a nurse in my class years ago in Nashville, Tennessee, and we were just chatting after the class was over, and she made a statement that just have stuck with me. She said, "God knows your heart. It's up to us to hear His voice." And so when God puts something in our heart, He already knows it's there because He's the one who put it there.
Yes.
And then it's up to us to say, God, why do you give me this burden and this passion? Now let me hear your voice about what you want to do with this passion.
Yes. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. I like
that. God doesn't always call the equipped, but He does equip who He calls.
Oh my gosh, so true.
Sometimes He calls us into stuff and you go, I have no idea what I'm doing.
I totally walk through that.
Yeah.
I mean, in the beginning, we had a small intercessory team, and I was somewhat, panicked because my husband's been an executive. I was also in banking, but I had stepped away from that years ago when my daughter was born. And we knew for sure I was called to be a part of Kingdom Winds, but we didn't know exactly what that was going to look like. So it's definitely been a growing and a learning process for me. And I can honestly say I don't have that anymore. I don't have that angst. I don't have that lack of knowing where I fit in this calling that God placed on our family. Um, but that doesn't mean that there's often things that Gary, my husband, will want me to take on, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I don't think so. I do try to push back. It's an interesting dynamic to work with your husband. It's been wonderful, but I mean, it is an interesting dynamic.
Well, I was sharing with you before the interview this year. My wife and I, we married 45 years, and when I did stand up comedy, I would bounce a lot of jokes off her, and
Okay.
she would just like roll her eyes, and I go, well, apparently that was just funny in my head because when it came out of my mouth, it really wasn't. So it's really nice to have that sounding board, isn't it?
It is for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
God doesn't always want just our ability, he wants our availability. And sometimes there are people, and maybe there's people that's listening to this right now saying, God, I don't really know what I'm doing. And God said, that's okay. Just be available.
Hmm.
I'll fill in the rest for you. I just need somebody to be available to say,
Yes,
I'll follow you. Uh,
absolutely.
do you think the disciples had the ability to follow Christ? Absolutely not. But they
Right.
just chose to follow. And that's what I want to be, is chosen to follow him. And
Absolutely. He needs our yes. And I, I mean, I really feel like I've tried to live that out for many years now, just getting up, and whether it was going to be a day spent at church in a ministry form or a class form, or now with Kingdom Winds, I surrender each day to him and trust that he's leading me and he's guiding me, and what is supposed to get done is going to get done. And it is so much, it's about surrender and saying yes and being a willing vessel. It really is.
I often say, a saying that I came up with is, when surrender is your reasonable service, you can expect great things from God.
Mhm.
And he wants just surrender to be that reasonable service. It's what we do daily. Paul said, I die daily, don't we?
Yes, yeah, yeah. It's not as glamorous as what some churches might be teaching, but it's really the reality. And the thing is, if we are in that posture, our heart becomes one with his, and what he leads us into becomes one of the greatest blessings. Like my Gary has always worked extremely hard, but Kingdom Winds is no different. We work, I say we work 24/7. We don't, but we are working a lot. But it's our heart's passion now, and it's a part of us, and there's joy in that, even though there's a lot of, I mean, the enemy's thrown everything at us but the kitchen sink. There's a lot of negative, but honestly, the adventure with God is worth it. The adventure and the yes with God is worth it. And if you don't know what your adventure is, yes, yet, I mean, just do the next thing, right? Just get up every day and be expectant that he's going to show you what's happening today. And it will grow into, you know, it'll grow into more for sure, because the world needs us. The world needs Christians making a difference.
Absolutely. There's something about the written word, and now the video, that goes for much longer than the moment that we do it. And some of you are wondering about, well, maybe I should have been published. Maybe I should do a podcast. Maybe I should do something, and you don't know where to start, what to do. I'm going to put down the connection for Kingdom Winds in the comment section here.
Yeah,
Reach
that's
out to
great.
this wonderful couple. Reach out to them. Maybe they could help. Maybe they could give you direction of where you need to go. Maybe you've got some books in you. I know I do. You got some books in you that need to get out.
Yeah.
Maybe there's other things that God's prompting your heart. You just don't know the how to. I would encourage you to contact them. If that's not you, pass this interview on to somebody you believe that will enjoy it, either through Facebook or through YouTube. And even if that's not you and you don't know somebody, when you look at this beautiful couple and you think about their ministry, I want you to pray for kingdom wins. And I want you to just take time and say, God, whatever they're doing, however they're doing it, be with them and bless them in their ministry, and just pray for them when God prompts your heart. And I know there'll be great things in store for them. Beth, thank you so much for taking some time and being with me today.
Absolutely. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hope we could stay connected and
Absolutely.
good.
You
And
know, I'm bringing you on.
I know we talked about that. Who
Yes.
knows what's in
Yes.
store for connections with God connections. Thank you for joining me for Morning Moments, and keep coming back. And may God richly bless you.